Much to the delight of my entire family, today we have received some groundbreaking news in regards to aliens. I feel like I'm giving some kind of press conference here about it because I feel so personally invested in it. For my entire life, my family has always firmly believed that extraterrestrials have not only visited this planet but made contact with us, and we've recovered some spacecrafts and all kinds of gadgets and gizmos that the government isn't telling us. And now they've received some vindication that that belief might be the truth. Today there was a hearing with a gentleman named David Grush who was claiming that not only have aliens come to this planet, but we have recovered some wreckage, some items, even some bodies, perhaps. And this is all sworn under oath, and he is a pretty credible source, all things considered. He was a military intelligence officer for about 14 years. He had, from what I understand, from what I've researched here, pretty high level clearance. He was a pretty important person in his post, and he is now putting all of this public at this hearing. Now, he hasn't presented any concrete evidence or any evidence like that, any proof, but his claims, he says, do have not only eyewitness supports, but real concrete proof, irrefutable evidence that he is unable to share publicly, but is able to share in private with Congress. So it's a very interesting development. I'll go over it a little bit more in depth. I talked about it on stream today. Overall, though, I don't think you're going to find anyone happier about this news than my dad. After the hearing today, my dad called me just full of jubilation. It was like a kid on Christmas. He was giddy, like a high schooler that actually just got a date to prom. My dad called me, laid out all of the details of what happened in the hearing, and was just so happy to hear someone that has credibility say these things because it gets him excited to hear it. He really wants to see alien proof and get to experience that truth coming to light. So this was a really cool day overall for me and my family. I still don't fully believe it, if I'm being honest, because he hasn't provided any proof. It's very hard for me to just take everyone at their word. I understand lying under oath is a serious offense, but it's not like that's never happened before. You know, you really think someone would do that? Go under oath and tell lies? Absolutely. For sure. It has happened before. It will happen again. I'm not saying it happened right now, but I just don't take anything at just the face value of the claims. I would like to see some of the evidence here. So I'm very excited to learn more about it. This has got me fucking salivating for more information and more details about all of the things that he's claiming. So let me just go ahead and play the stream clips now to bring you all up to speed on what went down. How many aliens could we take in a fight? Well, according to David Grush, we stand no chance at actually fighting them, apparently. Which, I have always said, if they are real and have visited us, well, I think aliens are real in the universe at some point. I personally haven't ever thought they visited us, but I've always said if they did, we would stand no chance. We would stand legitimately no chance. It'd be like putting a child up against, John Bones Jones. You're never gonna win, right? And that's kind of what he said, too. One of the questions was, are our weapons sufficient to defend ourselves against them? Or something to that effect. And his answer was, absolutely not. According to my dad. So, like I said, I haven't watched the hearing yet. But once it was over, my dad called me, damn near celebrating. I could hear kazoos going off in the background. He's like, I told you, Charlie. I told you this day would come, that we'd have legitimate confirmation from reputable sources that aliens have come here. And he was filling me in. He was giving me the nitty-gritty behind everything here. But for those that don't know the situation, David Grush is a former military intelligence officer. We talked about him a little while ago. He is the real deal. He is who he says he is. And he does have actual pretty high-level clearance, as I understand it. And a little bit ago, he came to the public. Well, he made public statements that extraterrestrial visitors have not only been here, but have been observed, and in even certain situations, we have recovered some of their shit. And they had a hearing about this today. These are huge claims. Now, granted, he has not provided any evidence. He hasn't linked to, their social media accounts for us to double check or anything. We don't have any pictures or anything. He doesn't have a picture of an alien doing a keg stand outside of Area 51 or anything, but he is a high-ranking intelligence officer who is making these claims. So it has more weight to it than most. So they had this hearing today, just kind of going over the scope of it, bringing everyone up to speed. And very interesting. He was asked point blank if there's any real biological indication that what they have is not of human origin. And he says, yes, it is not human. When asked how many people are aware of this, like in terms of like unidentified aerial phenomena, he said thousands of pilots have reported them but are either too embarrassed to come forward thinking people will call them crazy, or are unable to come forward because of like crackdown, something like that. Evidence should be king here. Well, he's not on trial. There's no burden of proof here. This is a hearing just to get all the information. He did say he has all of the evidence but is unable to bring it forward to the public, but is willing to share it with Congress in what's called a skiff, I think, is what my dad called it, or my dad's just making up terms to make me sound like a fucking idiot. I've never heard of that before, but apparently it's like a private hearing, and he said he's more than willing to give over all of the evidence he has on all of his claims in the private skiff. Yeah, that's a real thing? Okay. I've never heard of that. But one thing that I said was very fishy from the start about this story is David Grush actually had expressed written permission from the DOD to come forward with alien information. So to me, he's not really a whistleblower. He's more of like a spokesperson. I don't think that necessarily pokes holes in the credibility of the claims, I guess. But it is very interesting that they're labeling him a whistleblower when he literally has permission from the teacher. You know, this isn't a guy that fucking crawled through the trenches and threw up a signal in the sky in order to get us the information. He had permission. He had their blessing. Why is he doing this? We'll have his answer and then I'll give you my answer. He believes that he's doing the public a great service by bringing this information forward, thinking that we need to be brought into the loop here, brought into the fold in an ever-growing situation here with advanced life forms. I think the reason is distraction. I think all of this is serving as a big kind of distraction for what? I don't know. But I just find it so odd that the DOD would be like super on board with it and let him do all of this. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what the distraction would be for. But I mean, here, let's spitball some tinfoil hat shit. Let's assume I'm right and it's all a distraction. I guess what they could do next is make claims like they need to build defense systems in order to combat potential extraterrestrials, like these big-titted goth babe aliens coming to Earth looking to harvest us. We've got to stop it. So we're going to need to increase our spending on defense programs in order to make sure that we're adequately prepared for it. But I would love to believe that this is all very legitimate. David Grush legitimately has real evidence. Aliens are real. We've recovered certain things, and he can prove all of it. That's what I want. But what I really believe is that this is all somehow a distraction. That's where I'm really torn. I don't know. This is, to date, probably the most credible person to come forward with apparently other witnesses of high-ranking military origin with evidence. And we now have more access to unidentified aerial phenomena than ever. That's very hard to explain. So this is probably as credible as it's ever been. But I just don't know. It just feels artificial. He said it all under oath. If he's lying, he just ruined his life. Yeah, of course. But there is a huge difference between a testimonial and evidence. We've heard the testimonial. It's all under oath, of course. But we haven't seen any evidence yet. The Israeli space chief said the Galactic Federation is in contact with America last year. The DoD doesn't support. They just released him to say what he believes is a classified program. That's the only other comment. But that's still giving their blessing. Otherwise, they would have shut him down like they do most other whistleblowers. For example, like Edward Snowden, right? Like I feel like if they didn't want it out, it wouldn't have got out. And I don't know what the Galactic Federation is. I didn't realize we had Commander Shepard out there on the fucking Mass Effect relay at the Citadel or something talking to us. That's news to me. If this is all real, do you think they would ever tell the public the full story? No. If not, why do you think they need to hide it? Panic. Brother, we can't even handle the most basic concepts right now. Go on Twitter for any length of time, or excuse me, the platform formerly known as Twitter, for any length of time. People won't even accept the most obvious, conclusive, true statements anymore. We are not ready for it. Why do we have any reason to listen to them when they provide no evidence? Because of where the claim is coming from. This isn't just like a Joe Schmo. This guy was a high-ranking military intelligence officer for like 14 years. Not exactly like the number one person you'd think to just go out there and lie for no real benefit to himself. No, he didn't say if the aliens were hot or not yet. I'm going to assume no. I've always thought if there were aliens out there, they'd be like insectoid-esque. How would the government even capture the spacecraft? That's exactly what I said. I have no idea. The only thing that I could even somewhat spitball a guess, assuming it's all real, is they recovered wreckage from a spacecraft that blew up somewhere in space and drifted onto Earth and crashed somewhere. I don't think it came to Earth and then crashed. It certainly wasn't shot down. Apparently, he even claimed we have no chance of even, like, defending ourselves against them. So it would have just had to be, like, a drifting piece of something. Just because you're smart doesn't mean you can't crash. Brother, you're not just smart. If you have something that can reach Earth, that means you have something that defies our very understanding, and this is even according to David, apparently. This is what my dad said, and he's right. That means you have something that is so far beyond our comprehension we can't even prove that what we're seeing would be real. You wouldn't just crash on Earth. The only thing that I could even think would be the case is, again, something happened, maybe it hits asteroids out in space and a piece of it breaks off and lands on Earth, crashes into Earth. It wouldn't crash when it gets to Earth. They can travel the galaxy without problem, but when they get to Earth, all of a sudden they're crashing everywhere. I don't think he was claiming that there's been a ton of crashes. Just a ton of sightings. And apparently they do have in their possession some UAP fragments and shit. And I guess bodies too. Aliens heard about your performance in the Hunger Games and needed to come see it firsthand. See, like, there's a theory I'd actually subscribe to. That one would make sense. But why are the aliens here? COVID? That's probably why. COVID hit their planet real hard and they were trying to escape. Or maybe they're here to collect COVID from us. They have like a virus museum or something and they need COVID to be part of it.
I'm asking Congress to hold our government to this standard and thoroughly investigate these claims.
God, imagine we brought in an alien.
As I stand here under oath now,
actions speak louder than words. Come in here, Glorb.
Told them. In a position of extreme trust, both in my military and civilian capacities. I was informed in the course of my official duties of a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program.
Oh, that was one of the other questions they apparently asked pretty soon, is if anyone ever got injured reverse engineering any UAPs. And he said yes. But again, there's no evidence.
To which I was denied access.
I hope there will be at some point.
When
in what possible sense is he credible just because of his position? Yeah, what? Yeah, obviously. A 14-year high-ranking military intelligence officer with, actually pretty impressive clearance? Yes. That is what would make him credible. Yeah. It's like what makes everyone credible is their position. Like, if it was me saying all of this, it would be completely uncredible. I'm a worthless source. Right now, all it seems like is that they've made him a celebrity, with an official endorsement from the DoD. Which seems very weird for a whistleblower to get that kind of glamour from the people he's blowing the whistle on. I disagree. How? Look at all the other whistleblowers like Edward Snowden. Look what happened to him. Oh, here's another one. An easy one. Epstein got fucking murdered when he was about to blow the whole lid off of that crazy operation. If there's something they don't want released, it will not get released.